Swim check 1, 2. Bike check 1, 2. Run check 1, 2. I think we're ready. Let's try this. Welcome to the Try Beginner's Luck podcast, a podcast where we explore the sport of triathlon from a variety of perspectives to help beginner triathletes on their journey. I am your host, Mashonda Shines. Well, welcome back to another edition of Try Beginner's Luck. We're back. I feel like doing the snake. You know, like back in the day, you could do the snake. Be like, yeah, we're back. We're back. Hey. And my fingernails matches my shirt. Today's going to be a good day. Hey, it's going to be a good day. Well, with that said, because it's going to be such a good day, we are back. It's still in October. And I don't know if I've ever had a guest like the one that I have today. But I will tell you, the story and the energy she brings is absolutely infectious. I had the pleasure of meeting this young, brilliant mind in August of this year when I emceed the YWCA's 15th annual all-women's triathlon. I had never been to an event of this magnitude. I think it was maybe a little over 1,200 women. The energy was out the door. I was in awe and almost was like, this Midwest scene is a vibe. So before I introduce you to this next guest, I have to say, if you have some time in your schedule in August of next year, be sure to check out the YWCA's Women's Triathlon. I promise you, you will not be disappointed. The level of details, the gifts, every detail is down to I'm lost for words. It's down to a precise magic. And that's not real. That's not a real thing. Precise magic. What is that? I don't know, but it's my podcast, so I can make it words. Okay. I mean, the food vendors, the gifts that they give out, the thoughtfulness and the inclusivity. This was the first. Okay, I'm doing a little too much on YWCA, but I appreciate y'all for having me. But I was blown away. Where they told me to play Lift Every Voice and Sing. I said, what? We're doing what now? I was in awe. And it made me, as a Black announcer, seeing a very diverse group of women, feel like that was home. It made me feel validated and important, thought of, and I was just, wow. Okay, so I'm getting a little choked up because you don't see that level of detail and care in every race, which is fine. But the fact that they thought of that for those, to make it more inclusive and diverse was shocking to me. But I also met this fabulous woman who came up to me and was like, look, let me tell you about my story. I was told the story and then was handed this amazing book called, I should hide the name, right? Extreme Healing. Yes, you probably saw the name and it's fine. But this young lady wrote a book to help share her story and journey with others to help them. She's done over 45 triathlons, including half Ironman, a bunch of Olympic distances. She's done 2 marathons, lots of half marathons. She does 10 milers just for fun on the weekends if you follow her on social media. and she loves bike rides. So you can catch her doing a century at any given time. She's a writer, a blogger, an educator. Of course, she's a triathlete and a big fan of dogs and LinkedIn. She's a LinkedIn coach. So if you need help, i.e., I do too, get her to help you with your LinkedIn so you can get that new JLBZ for Sheezy. Okay. Okay. All right. But I am excited and I am honored to bring to this audience Miss Mari Ruddy. Hey, Mari, welcome to the Try Beginner's Luck podcast. How are you?
Woohoo! It's so good to be here. Mashada, you are amazing. You've got a way with words. You know how to introduce somebody. I feel seen and heard. So thank you.
Should be. And I thank you for that compliment. I'm like, thank you. Thank you. I definitely think that's a gift from God for sure, because I try to always approach everybody. And that's one of the things that I desire to do because I never know who's on the other side and what they've experienced before they've encountered me. And it's my job, I feel, and a gift that I get to make sure that when they are in my presence, they feel good, seen, heard, and loved. And so that is an honor. Yeah.
Awesome. Fantastic. Well, it's wonderful to be here with you and get to talk about
Look at our backgrounds.
racing
We
and
can
woohoo!
we can do
I
our
know I got the
backgrounds.
whole thing here. Yeah, my
Yes.
publisher gave me this big, huge banner and it was like, what am I going to do with that banner? And he said, use it. And I'm like, okay.
Well, there you
So
go. You're
there it
using it.
is.
You're using it. And I love it because it's great. Mara, you are a ball of energy and you've had to overcome so much. And what I neglected to say is you've dealt with type 1 diabetes for most of your life, and you are currently fighting your third bout of breast cancer.
Yep. Yep. And I only have two breasts. Like, what the heck?
That's what I'm saying.
It's
Like,
like,
for
how,
real.
third time? Like, come on. I know. It's wild. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
how do you
It's
keep your energy at a level at what you do and always just seem to bring light and joy to people's lives when you are, fighting for your life?
yeah. Well, that's a really good question. And I think that what happened when I was quite young was that I realized that one of the only things I could actually control was my attitude. And that and I had a choice every moment. How was I going to show up? How was I going to interact with the world? And I'm an ambivert, so half extrovert, half introvert. So I can move kind of either way in terms of being sort of very outwardly directed. And again, like you, it's like we get to choose how we show up. And I made a choice when I was quite young that I was going to show up as light and as energetic as I could. And that has thankfully stayed with me. I'm dealing with this third round of breast cancer, and it's considered metastatic because it came back on my chest wall where I had the mastectomy. And thus it's considered metastatic. And now I have to take a hormone suppressant that makes my body have no estrogen, not even a low estrogen, but no estrogen. And as a result, that has tanked my energy. And I have now what's referred to as a medicine induced depression, which I don't suffer from depression. And I was like, what am I going to do with this? And I see a therapist, and she's really helped me work through. I have to make sure I get enough sleep. I mean, sleep is so essential these days for me. And I also am really careful about who I hang out with because toxic people zap my energy. So I am very, very cautious about who I spend my time with because I need people around me who bolster and bring out my good energy. So I'm very selective about how I spend my time and who I spend it with. and I get 8 to 9 hours a night of sleep pretty much every night. And that helps.
It's funny that you say you get 8 to 9 hours of sleep because this season kind of the underlining underbelly is rest and recovery. And the the fact that you don't allow toxicity in people to be tolerated around you is absolutely incredible because not everyone has the ability to say, hey, no, I don't welcome this type of energy within me. So continue to take care of yourself and self care in that way. But I also resonate so deeply with you when you talk about being an ambivert. I
Yeah.
didn't realize I was an ambivert until 2020.
Yeah.
That even though I draw energy from people,
Yeah.
I love being in quiet. And maybe because I talk a lot, right? So I need time to just chill out.
Mhm.
But it was an awakening for me. And I never had words for it until the pandemic when I realized I had to spend so much time with myself. And I was like, Mashonda, you're actually kind of cool. I like you,
Yes.
girl.
Yep.
Like, I like
Totally.
you. I like hanging out with you. And so I love that about, what you've said and how you made a decision. You decided that
Yeah.
you wanted to show up a certain way and you've done that. And it shows. Because I almost was going to run away when you came up to me. I was like, more energetic than I am. I was like, that's scary. But no, it's really cool. And I thank you for being open and sharing with us about uh, going through the next phase, this phase of metastatic
Yeah.
um, cancer
Mhm.
and the medicines that it has you on. Because I'm sure that those medications probably interrupts or
Mhm.
hinders your ability to train when you want to train.
Yep.
So, can we talk about that a little bit? Because I'm sure
Yeah.
there's someone who may know
Mhm.
someone who's going through this, or they may be experiencing themselves and maybe need just
Yeah.
some encouragement to
Yeah.
figure out how to do it for themselves and how to get
Mhm.
through it this season of life.
Yeah, that's a great thing to bring up because like one of the things they tell people with chronic illnesses, diabetes, cancer, is to move your body regularly. And especially in terms of cancer prevention, they say for sure to move your body 30 to 60 minutes a day. And then there's this fine line because the longer you exercise, you actually harm your immune system. Yeah, I learned that when I was going through chemo, the first round of cancer. And my cycling coach said, you are not allowed to ride your bike longer than 1 hour. You're not allowed to run longer than 1 hour. You're not allowed to swim longer than 1 hour. And it's because when you go over that 1 hour limit, you start to tax your immune system. And so, and that's why recovery is so essential, is that your immune system needs to recover. And when you're going through chemo or some kind of treatment for a disease, you can't extra tax your immune system. And one of the insights I've had since being on this, what's the drug I'm on is called letrozole, and it's an aromatase inhibitor. And I'm turning 60 in May of 2025. And to celebrate, I wanted to run my third marathon. And it became evident that that was a very bad choice for this body because I'm dancing with my third round of cancer. I don't say I'm fighting it because fighting implies a battle. And I'm actually attempting to learn from what cancer clearly has something to teach me. And apparently I didn't learn because it keeps coming back. So this aromatase inhibitor has really cramped my body's ability to recover. And when I've done training runs of more than 15, 16, 17, 18 miles, I go into extreme pain in my hip, in my back, in my sort of my, and I don't have any history of this kind of pain. And it's a direct result of the side effect of this aromatase inhibitor. And one of the insights I had is there another way I could celebrate turning 60 besides running a marathon? And what I came up with is 3 half marathons, one a month for 3 months. And each half marathon can symbolize 20 years of my life. So, yeah, do you like that one?
I like it a lot.
Yeah,
And you
it's a
technically are going to
reframe.
do over a marathon,
Yes,
which is great.
I'm a little overachiever, as
Of
I'm sure
course.
you can understand. Yeah, so it's like part of it is learning how to move in a way you've moved before the diagnosis, but also adjust and reframe with the diagnosis. So for me, it was like, all right, I feel really attached to running a third marathon, and can I let it go and replace it with something that feels equally good? And that's the reframing, which is one of the skills I teach in the book, because I really, really wanted, sort of as I was writing this book took me 12 years to write and get published. Yeah, it was not like an overnight thing. And it was because I wanted it to be a self-help book, not a memoir. So I use my story, but really I wanted to bring sort of the teaching idea. And I've done so much research to make this book a reality. And I really wanted the book for myself when I was 35. And as a person with diabetes at that point, how can I do a big athletic event? And there really, at that point, weren't very many books about how to do it. And so I wanted my book to be in the world for people who have chronic illnesses to think of themselves as endurance athletes. Because my belief is that people with chronic illness are actually perfect at being endurance athletes because we know how to endure, we know how to reframe pain, we know how to take on a challenge and make it make sense. So I figured, well,
Yeah.
let's get out there. And now people who have cancer do all kinds of athletic events, and people who have diabetes do all kinds of athletic events. So, but that wasn't always true. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you for persevering and for learning how to reframe. I can say that reframing isn't real easy, and it really takes a curated mindset exercised over and over to be able to health in a healthy way reframe your thoughts and thinking so that you can get a different result. Because you and I have had some conversations and we are connected, you're telling me how you are actually still doing that to this day. And
Oh,
even
yeah.
going back into your childhood of things that you've experienced when you were a child and reframing that. Do you want to share a little bit about that with us in this audience?
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the things that I'm very, very open about in my book is that I was a sexual abuse survivor and I had 3 different perpetrators. And I that kind of trauma, and I forgot that trauma until the Loma Prieta earthquake in 1989. And then it was like, whoo, there it is. And I was like, am I going crazy? Like, I'm remembering these things that happened to me, but I don't remember them happening to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to do lots and lots of therapy and sort of reframing what those experiences did to me and what I could still do moving forward. And one of the big things was that I spent most of my childhood not in my body. And I
Mm.
was not athletic at all because moving my body too much caused me to be in it. And I did not want to be in my body. I wanted to be in my head or out in the world, but not in the body because it hurt too much. And when I started getting in my body, I was like, oh, this is actually a really good body. Oh, I actually like moving my body. Oh, I actually love bike riding. Oh, I am pretty good at swimming. And then eventually I learned to love running, but that one took longer. I was just saying.
Ditto for
And
a lot of people.
yeah, I know. I was like, oh, we're going running again? And we're going running after we bike? Why would we do that?
Why? Just why? Whose
It's
brilliant idea
like,
was that?
I know. It's like, really? The first mile? Oh, I see why they call it a brick. And yep. And that getting in my body and sort of realizing that I could move my body in these really amazing ways really changed my whole life. It was like, oh, this is a new way of looking at life. Like I can achieve things. I can, manifest my dreams. And that was a huge learning. And I mean, I forgave my father. I forgave the people who abused me. And we ended the last moment before my father died. He actually apologized. And it was like, okay, this is and I know that he's one of my ancestors in the, ethereal world and that he actually helps me out as an ancestor. And that is a re-understanding, reframing of how people enter our lives and how our souls have a job. And I know that one of my soul's job in this lifetime is to keep learning and to give back. And that's part of what this book is about is how can I inspire and motivate and share how to do this, because getting back in your body and using your body athletically, not just for, little stuff, but big stuff, is a really important way to reclaim life. It's like that's what every single athletic event has done for me. Is here I am with all these incredible people doing this shared physical activity, and there's so much love and celebration. I mean, it's why I keep doing the YWCA triathlon, and I even became one of their main volunteers because it was so worth it to be part of making the scene happen for others.
Well,
Yeah.
you're doing it and you've overcome so much. And I just appreciate how you show up because, again, we have a choice of how we show up. And some days we miss the mark, and some days it's not always rainbows and butterflies. But making that choice to show up in a way, despite how you've been violated and despite what's challenging your body, is admirable. And I know that you are inspiring so many people just by sharing and having the bravery to share your story. Because it takes
Yeah.
guts to be able to share not so delightful things that have happened to you. It really does take a lot of courage.
Yeah.
And most people, um, yeah. So
Yeah.
we'll leave that there.
Yeah.
But on page 111, which is 111, which is how we are here today, this is page 111 in Extreme Healing, the book. You tell us about your first time story. Now, I would have known this had I not had your book. And you've given it to me. And although, in all respect, I haven't read the complete book,
Okay.
but I am. And two, who knew that you would talk about your first time story? And I have a podcast called Try Beginner's Luck. And I just think that that's absolutely fantastic. So, and on page 111 equals number three, which is like swim, bike, run. Okay, it's too much iterations, excuse me. So tell us about your first time coming into this sport. How did you get involved? What was it like? Tell us everything.
Oh my gosh, it was such a great race. And how I found out about the race was that this woman who I knew from the cycling community, she knew that I really loved cycling, and she herself was a breast cancer survivor. And she said, Mari, you ought to come to this breakfast we're having the day before this triathlon. And I was like, what's a triathlon? And she said, well, you swim, then you bike, then you run. And I said, I have not swam at all since I was in high school, and I don't run. I do bike, and I could bike if we could do a relay. And she said, oh, you don't have to do any of it. Just come to this breakfast and meet Sally Edwards, who is one of the first Ironman champions ever. Just if you've ever heard of Sally Edwards, she's amazing. And Sally will be there, and it's for all the cancer survivors. And we're going to have this little breakfast. And I was like, okay, I'll come over. So I drove to the lake. It's actually a reservoir because it was Colorado. And she was there, and there were about 30, maybe 25, 30 women there. And they just started talking. And I was like, I want to do that. It's tomorrow. Okay. I have not trained at all. And a week ago, I finished radiation therapy. Okay. I'll go to the pool this afternoon and make sure I can still swim. And I can walk if I can't run the whole thing. And for sure, I can ride my bike 15 miles or 12 miles it was, I think that one. So I did not own a triathlon outfit. So I bought a triathlon outfit at the expo. You're not supposed to wear new clothing at the race, but I did. And I found my goggles. I got my bike out, cleaned it all up. I found my tennis shoes that were crappy tennis shoes, running shoes. I mean, they were horrible shoes. I should not have run 10 feet in those shoes, but that's what the shoes I had. And I put everything in this funny looking bag. I mean, I had no idea what to expect. And I went to the pool and I swam 500 yards. I asked the lifeguard, I said, how many lakes of the pool is 500? And he said, 32. I said, okay. I got it and I swam 32 and I was like, okay, I could do the swim. And, again, remember, I had just finished radiation therapy. So it was like, okay, we'll see how this goes. And the morning of, I was driving to the reservoir and I was shocked at how many people there were. And it was an all women's race. It was the Danskin race that happened all over the United States. And they had all the cancer survivors go into the water right after the pro elite athletes. So here I am, like, I don't have any idea what a triathlon is. And I'm watching these women go in the water, and I'm like, wow, they can swim really fast. Like, I had no idea. Like, I'm like, I can't really swim that fast. I hope that's okay. And I asked one of the women next to me, and she's like, don't worry about it. You just do your race. And that theme has stayed with me. It's like we all just do our own race. So I got in the water. I swam very slowly because I had not, I mean, I swam the 500 the day before, but I was kind of tired and didn't really have any technique at that point. I'd never taken an adult swim lesson at that point and finished the swim. And Sally was standing on the edge of the lake going, you can do it. You can do it. And I was like, all right, if Sally believes in me, okay. So got on my bike. But also the other thing I did not know is I did not know that the transitions counted. So I went to the bathroom I tested my blood sugar. I ate a snack. I think my transition was 8 to 10 minutes long. And I was looking at everybody's bikes and I was talking to people and no one was talking to me. And I was like, what's this? Why are people so focused during this part? This should be fun. Got on the bike, had such a good 12-mile bike ride, got off the bike. Again, I was socializing, eating a snack, testing my blood sugar. I mean, it was comedy how long I took in the transitions. I think I went to the bathroom maybe twice. I mean, I didn't really have to pee, but I thought maybe I should. In case you leave the house, you should always pee. I was like, well, if I'm going to go do this run, I better make sure I don't have to pee. So I did, and the run was, oh, they gave us these shirts that said Survivor on them. And oh my goodness, that was transformative because out on the run, there were all these people cheering, and I could not run. I mean, I ran every little bit, but I just had no energy left. And because I was wearing this Survivor t-shirt, I got so much applause. And that applause healed deep, deep, deep wounds inside of me that I didn't know I had from having just gone through chemo and radiation and a lumpectomy at that point. And it was like I felt like I was a piece of Swiss cheese that was getting the holes filled up by the cheering in a way that I didn't expect. And I crossed that finish line and I didn't tell anyone that I was doing this race. So no one officially knew me. None of my friends were there. No one I uh, knew I was even doing this. And all these people were just cheering me on and applauding as I finished, crossed the finish line. And I walked around and they had all these different organizations out there. And I was like, I should find a triathlon club. I should maybe learn how to actually do this event because I only knew how to do the bike. And I was like, so I found a club and then I went home and later on they they sent us the results and I was like, what's T1 and T2? It's, I was like, looked at my T1 and T2, and it was 8 to 10 minutes. I think one of them might have been 12 minutes. And everyone else was like 1 minute, 2 minutes. And I was like, how do they do that so fast? So I had to learn that. But that was my race experience. And it literally changed my entire life.
Well, now you know what T1 and T2 is, and you know it's not for snacks or bathroom breaks. Well, maybe for bathroom breaks, but not snacks or chats. T1 and T2, for those of you who might be new to the sport, is transition one and transition two, transitioning from the swim to the bike and then the bike to the run. And they do count. So just FYI, remember transitions count.
They do. They do. That was a big, big learning for me. And I can't even tell you how many times I have practiced the transitions because practice really does make a difference.
That's what they say.
And they're right. I mean, I even practice what order to put my sunglasses on, then the helmet, the whole thing. Like you just got an order and you got to do it in order.
I love it. So
Yeah.
after your first race, when did you know that you needed to do this again and then continue to do up to almost 35 at this point?
Yeah, yeah. Well, like I said, I knew that I liked swimming and I knew that I loved biking. I did not love running and I didn't know anything about how to train running. And it was clear that I needed some help with the swimming. I could get better. And there happened to be a group in Colorado that trained women called Colorado Wild Women. And I joined that and I started making friends in the Colorado. I mean, the Colorado athletic scene is very intense, as you probably know.
I hear. I've never been to Colorado, so I have to go
Oh,
there one day, but I
you
hear.
do, you do. I mean, they do not mess around. And I just discovered all, and I'm still very, very good friends with many of the women I met that very first round. And they had people meet I mean, this was 2006, 2007. They had people meet at women's houses once or twice a month, or no, twice a month, sometimes three times a month, to share strategies for training and then to train together. And I was blown away. And there was a woman who was the head coach and she wrote all the training plans. And that, like having a training plan by a coach was amazing. And a coach who understood all three sports. Because I'd had a cycling coach, but not a swimming and running coach who understood cycling. So that just, I knew immediately, essentially. And and that's how I then came to love running as well. I can't believe I even said that out loud, but I do. I actually love running.
I mean, because clearly you're running 10 miles for breakfast on Saturday and Sundays for fun these days.
Yeah, that's true.
That's what
That's
you do.
true.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
sometimes the things that we run away from is the one thing that we ultimately will gravitate towards.
True.
Um,
True.
I've had a rough transition with triathlon in the last couple of years where it's been like a love-hate relationship, especially like I love it and then I hate it.
Right.
I
Right.
hate the unknown parts of it, the maybe the DNFs parts of it, the parts where you don't get to perform the way you know you can. And then something happened this year where I feel like each part of the year I fell in love with the sport very differently. And I told my coach, I was like, I've really hated running for a long time. And maybe 3 weeks ago, I had this breakthrough moment. And I said, oh, maybe I like it again. We'll start
Right.
with like the other
Yeah.
L
Yeah.
word.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yep.
But no, but I
It's
do. I've fallen in love with it again. And I was like, okay, I needed that in order to keep going?
yeah. Yeah, and it's one of the things that is particularly enchanting to me about triathlon and long distance running and long distance biking is that technically it's an individual sport, but practically it's not. It's a
Mm-mm.
community sport.
Yeah.
And I mean, one of the key things I teach in this book is you have to find the people
Mm-hmm.
because you've got to train with people
Yeah.
and show up at an event with people, and that those people are going to help you make it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Community matters just in general. We can't be islands on our own.
right.
But I hugely say if you don't have a tri community, and for those of you who have been listening, you know the importance. There's several ways to get connected in the local tri space. You can look at a tri club, which is a
Mhm.
little bit different than a tri team.
Right.
You have different race directors that might have a team that you can be a part of, your local race director, where you can race perhaps for free if you volunteer. It's a nice exchange. You also have teams where they're apparel brand teams or different
Yeah.
ambassador teams. There's so many ways to get connected in this sport. And I guarantee when you find your tribe, it will change the way you try. Oh, that's a good one.
I know, that's
Find your
true.
tribe and it changes the way you try. Hey,
That's
okay,
good.
we're going to come out with an album one day. I got bars
I
on
love,
bars on bars. They might be corny bars, but they're bars.
I love it. I love it.
All right. You not only are a writer, but you're a coach. Tell us about your coaching and not necessarily the coaching that we're accustomed to, like triathlon coaching, but you coach people.
Yeah. Well, athletes are people.
What that facts.
Just saying.
Sometimes we're Martians from Mars, though.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay.
Fair enough. Yeah, I'm not currently. an athletic coach. I am thinking about possibly getting an athletic coaching thing, and I've explored it a little bit. But I'm a what they call a back of the pack person. I am not a fast athlete. I'm not a fast cyclist. I'm not a fast runner. So I'm not going to ever win my age group. I'm just never going to do that. And thus, I'm also not ever going to win a race. But I love it and I show up. And that is one of the things. And I keep, I mean, here I'm getting older and I'm taking these horrible drugs. And I just did my fastest 10-mile ever. And this summer I did my fastest half marathon. Yeah. And it was like, oh, you can keep getting better comparing yourself to yourself. And that's exciting, even as you age. So the thing about coaching is that I was a high school Spanish teacher, and then I became a high school principal. And then I started coaching high school principals and high school teachers. And then I ran my own company where I trained people who have diabetes to be endurance athletes in triathlon, running, and walking and biking. So we had four sports. And I mean, not that walking is really a sport, but we wanted something for people who are really just beginning to get active. And walking is a perfect
Yeah.
thing to start doing. So I had this company, it was called Team Wild, and I hired athletic coaches and diabetes educators, and we had an endocrinologist with us, and we had a sports psychologist on our team. So I brought all those people together to create this program, and then I sort of oversaw and coached the whole program. And so I've coached a lot of high school kids in student leadership. So I have a lot of coaching experience. And one of the things that I think is really helpful is that if you have ever coached anyone or been a teacher, you chances are good you will be good at receiving coaching. Like that's one of, I mean, I currently have a run coach that is amazing. He and part of it is because I can actually hear what he's suggesting I do in a way that isn't about just follow directions. It's actually, you hear it and then you have to kind of interpret it and apply it to your body. And then you can go back and have a conversation about that. So I'm highly coachable. And so I'm a big believer in coaching interactions with people and with coaches.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Do you still have your team?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh no. Well, Team Wild doesn't exist anymore. Although many of the people who received coaching from Team Wild, I'm still connected to them and they're still really active, which is very cool. And
Mm.
I'm part of a little triathlon group here in Minnesota where I live, and we're called Team Looking Sharp.
Mm.
And it's because one of the women who started it, she had cancer and she was bald and her hair grew back and it was all spiky and sharp. And her husband said, "You're looking sharp," and gave her what are those prickly hedgehog.
Mm.
And so that's our symbol is a hedgehog, and we are pretty much all of us back of the Packers, and we do the triathlon, the YWCA triathlon every year.
I love it.
Yeah.
You have such an extensive career. You have an extensive life story. What would you do or say to encourage a first timer that may not necessarily have cancer, but may be overcoming some challenges, or they may have challenges in their body, may have mental challenges? Like, what would you do to encourage them today in this moment?
Yeah, well, I mean, my number one thing is your belief about your body. So, number one, and how I started my journey was by declaring that I was an athlete. And I recited to myself daily. I still do. I am an athlete. And to make decisions about how you live based on would an athlete do that? Would an athlete eat that? Would an athlete sleep so little? Would an athlete deal with all these stressful people? It's like, what is my lens for experiencing life? And that's would be the thing I would say to beginning triathletes is claim that you are an athlete. And even if you don't really believe it, just claim it and then begin to act as if. So that's the first thing. And I mean, I think about where I was when I started biking, and I did not get it that I could be an athlete. And as I shifted into that identity, it was like instead of thinking of myself as a person who had diabetes or a person who was surviving cancer, first I am an athlete who has diabetes, who has cancer, who has had a lot of challenges, whatever the challenge is. And that lens first as athlete will
Mm-hmm.
change everything.
Hmm. I love that. I am. So make your I am declarations so that you
Exactly.
can make sure your body receives it and then you become it.
Exactly.
What? Hmm. We've talked about rest and recovery, and you speak about that a lot. How has rest and recovery transformed your life?
Yeah, well, I mean, one thing that I think is really important about rest and recovery is getting enough sleep is just step one. Step two is what is recovery and what recovery works for your body and
Mm-hmm.
your soul. And for me, I go to acupuncture every week. I go to chiropractic once every 4 to 5 weeks. I have found physical therapists at various points because of this weird aromatase inhibitor drug I'm taking, and I have
Mm-hmm.
all these joint pains. I go to physical therapy twice a month. And my oncologist wrote me a prescription to go to PT forever. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I will do that. So those are all recovery systems. And I think that figuring out what recovery works is a critical part of figuring out your sort of cycle of the year, of the training year. Like, when are you recovering? When are you giving yourself, like, between the fall training season and the spring training season, there's about 2 or 3 months, and I will cut back on how much I run, how much I bike, how much I swim. It's like, just cut back a little bit. I still walk my dog an hour a day. It's like, it's not like I'm sitting around, but
Mm-hmm.
active recovery, they call it
Right.
you know so it's just like noticing that there's a rhythm. I almost married a man who won an Olympic medal at cross country skiing in Sochi, and he had this little notebook that was a 4-year notebook because he viewed every Olympic cycle as a cycle, and he reviewed every week as a cycle, every month, and then every year. And it was like, oh, like thinking about things in cycles, which is how nature works.
That's how, literally.
Right. And so remembering that we have to give ourselves a chance to rest and recover. And that's when all the mitochondria repairs and, all the little
That's the powerhouse, y'all. Mitochondria, powerhouse cell. Ooh, ooh. Sorry.
exactly. So I'm a
Little
big
science
fan.
geek in me.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I mean, you'll see that throughout the whole book as I just keep bringing in sciency type things.
You do. And especially,
Yeah.
I think some of the good nuggets out of a section that I read, which was a part of the recovery. I was talking about nutrition and how nutrition plays such a huge part, which we've said this several times, but you give examples of things that people can eat who have type 1 diabetes, and you really, give not just recipes, but you say this is what you can eat at this time of day. This is what you can eat at this time of day. And so it really is more of a practical guide for those who might need to see it and then replicate it and then kind of create it and make it their own once they've done it a couple of times. And I really see the value of that and was like, this is some good information. Um, with that said, thank you so much, Mari, for coming
Woo, thank
onto the
you. Oh, it's
podcast.
so fantastic.
This has been great to me and my soul. And I am, I'm not going to let you go just yet because we have this thing called rapid fire, which we are going to um, we ask everybody these questions. And so nobody gets to escape without getting some type of rapid fire question. But I want to say thank you. With that said, where is your favorite place to try?
Ooh, I would have to say Colorado. Yeah, I really loved doing triathlon there. And I would like to do some more triathlons there. And then Lake Nokomis.
Lake Nokomis is pretty beautiful, pretty
It,
special. I've never
it
swam
is.
in it, but next year, well, if I'm invited back next year,
You're going to be invited back.
I will be taking a swim in Lake Nokomis because I was like, man, that water looks so good.
It's
Okay,
really good.
focus, Mashonda, focus. Um, favorite triathlon hack?
Triathlon
Hack,
hat?
hack, like
Hack. Oh, yeah.
yes,
Okay,
favorite
hack.
triathlon hack.
Oh, okay. I love taping my goose on the handlebar.
So you can just rip
Have
it
you
off.
just rip it off? Boom, boom. I mean, that is just brilliant.
It is, but it seems messy, so I wouldn't do it.
It can be a little messy. I tend to think that is a little messy, but I think it's such a brilliant
It
hack.
is. It's
Yeah, yeah,
fast and efficient. It's efficient.
yeah.
Um, what is the best cheer squad or cheer sign
Mm.
that you've seen while you've been out on the race course, whether it's the running course, tri course, or the bike course?
I have seen such hilarious signs. And I can't remember jokes and I
Hmm.
can't remember signs. So I literally that is one of the ways my brain does not retain information.
Oh, that's
So
fair.
yeah, I mean I laugh out loud at some of the signs. So there are good ones.
Yeah.
And my friends have made some really good ones.
Yeah. The one that I saw this past weekend, I announced a 5K, a local 5K, Run Your Best Life 5K, I think it was.
Ooh.
And this person said, I trained all year to hold this sign. I said, that is so
That's
hilarious. Not even to run, it
great.
was to
I don't
hold this
sign.
sign. I said, okay, that's next level. So that'll be ours for the day.
That's a good
Um,
one. Thank you.
who or what inspires you?
Oh, yeah. So have you heard of Sister Madonna?
Yes,
Oh yeah. So
that's
I got to run one of my first Olympic triathlons and she was running that it was in Boulder, Colorado. And she ran next to me for a little while and actually talked to her. And I knew who she was. And then she took off because she's quite a bit faster than me. But I was
mhm.
like, I just ran with Sister Madonna. Woohoo! Woohoo!
Yes, yeah,
So I every year, I can't remember when her birthday is, but I know some people who are big in triathlon who always post about her on their social media.
yeah.
And I mean, the woman is old
She's
and she's still doing it. Yeah. 93 or
93
4.
this year.
Yeah.
93
Yeah.
this year. She for those of you who don't know Sister Madonna is also called Iron Nun. She's the first nun to practicing nun to do the Ironman distance race at Kona and just continues to try. And 2 years ago in Milwaukee, she did age group nationals. And so she's still very active to this day. And I need to actually, thank you. I'm going to
Mhm.
send her a text message and be like, hey, how are you? So yeah, reach out to her. Um, Are you a transition minimalist, Goldilocks, or kitchen sink space hoarder?
That's hilarious. Well, I make a big effort to be Goldilocks, but I have a leaning towards the kitchen sink. And it's because of having diabetes and over preparing. So I have to really work to remind myself that I have enough stuff without the extra stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Favorite music artist?
Ooh. Well, I kind of like weird music. I like Doogie McLean,
Mm,
and
okay.
he is Scottish.
Okay. I love
Hmm.
it.
Yeah.
And last but not least, we don't let people leave without this question. Do you pee on the bike or get off and take a proper pee break?
I have done both, and I had to train to pee on the bike, and it was so freaking gross. I could not stand it. And it was so hard to learn how to do that. And then to have to take a spare water bottle that did not have nutrition in the bottle and spray off my leg and shoe,
Well, there. It's
rinse it off. Yeah.
rinse it off. Well, oh my goodness. Thank you so much. We had the saying at Try Beginner's Luck, whenever you try, you always win. And as you can see here, Mari has been trying beginner's luck over and over again, constantly overcoming and showing us that you can make a decision to choose to be how you want to be. So it's your choice. And we just thank you so much, Mari, for joining us. Be sure to like, share, follow this episode, and uh, tell your friends all about us. Y'all listen. We're excited. Thank you so much for all that you do. My name is Mashonda Miles, also known as Mashonda Shines. And guess what? We are out. Peace. Bye, everybody. Thank you for tuning in and listening to this episode. We need your help so we can continue to try at TBL. So for more information on where you can find and subscribe to this podcast, visit www.trybeginnersluck.com. And don't forget, whenever you try beginner's luck, you always win.